All right, everyone. Again, my name's Adam Stewart, and we'll go ahead and kick off the webinar today. We're going to be talking about the art of effective prospecting, and really what I want to convey to you today are three things: what prospecting is, why you should be doing it, and how you can do it better. So let's go ahead and get into the slide deck here. I'll tell you a little bit about our company first. Prospect Now has been around since 2008. We're headquartered in Northern California, profitable with rapid growth, and some of our investors include Dennis DeAndre, who is the founder of LoopNet.com, the premier commercial listing service. And we have over 2,000 customers at multiple firms across different industries. So we have clients in the real estate space, in the finance space, and even solar installers and roofers using our product. And our product, for those of you who are not familiar, is a database full of contact information for building owners and tenants. And I'll talk more about that towards the end of the webinar. What I want to start with actually is some engagement from you. I want to take a quick poll and ask you how you feel about the state of your current prospecting, right? And I'm going to put a poll here on the screen here as soon as my there we go. So let's go ahead and I'm going to launch this poll. And what I want you to do is just select the option that best describes where you are in your your current state of your prospecting, whether you love it, you don't do it, you're not interested in it, whatever the case may be. And we'll I just want to get your feedback on that. It'll help me give you some more valuable insight here on the webinar. So we'll leave it open here for a few minutes, well, not a few minutes, but until everybody's had a chance to complete. There are no wrong answers, by the way. Ten more seconds and we'll close the poll here. And 3, 2, 1, the polls are closed. So why don't I, it's actually not entirely what I expected, but it is encouraging. I'll share why. Let me share the results here. So it looks like there's a few of you out there who love prospecting, and that's awesome. Looks like most of you are in the ballpark of you prospect but feel like you're not going anywhere, or you don't know where to start, or you don't have time. What I'm really pleased to see is that nobody said, hey, my pipeline's great, or I'm not interested in prospecting at all, which makes sense because otherwise I don't think you would really be on this webinar if you didn't need to prospect or you weren't interested in it. So let's take a look here. Okay, so let me get back to the screen sharing here. I'm going to hide these results, and we'll go ahead and move on here now that I have a good gauge of where everyone's at in terms of their prospecting. So the first thing, as I mentioned, that I want to talk about with you today is what is prospecting. It's pretty, it's a pretty simple question, and it has a pretty simple answer. When it comes to new business, the biggest challenge, especially in real estate, is reaching the right individual. And in order to do that, in order to find those new prospects, you have to have a diligent prospecting program that targets those qualified prospects and moves them through the sales cycle. So I want to make one thing clear before we give you the simple answer to this simple question. A lot of people might say that prospecting is the same as marketing, and I want to make one thing crystal clear, and that is the fact that they are not the same. Just a moment here, I'm getting some feedback on my end. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, let's make one thing clear. Prospecting and marketing are not the same. Marketing, in my opinion, it's the total of all of the activities involved in the exchange of services from you to your customers. And I think the best way to visualize this, as it's, to visualize prospecting as it's related to marketing, is if you'll picture in your mind a wagon wheel. with several spokes. Prospecting is one of those spokes, and it's probably the most important, because prospecting, to answer the question here, is the search for potential customers. It's just finding the people that that would do business with you if you had the chance. So there are 3 stages to prospecting. We'll talk about that next. So first off, you've got your cold prospects. These are people that you've identified as well qualified, but they have little to zero awareness of you or your company. So these are the folks that could and should do business with you, and if they knew who you were, they probably would. And so the goal of outreach to a cold prospect is really just to let them know who you are and how you help other people like them. And so this type of outreach is usually done through direct mail campaigns. If you'll think of like Just Listed or Just Sold postcards, that's a good example of prospecting to cold prospects, or through cold calling, right? And as anyone who's done either direct mail or who has cold called before will tell you, that's not a one-time effort. It's something that you have to be consistent with in order to navigate those cold prospects into the next stage, which is warm prospects. These are the folks, they know who you are, they're receptive to your contact. As you've done your cold prospecting outreach, you're going to have conversations and you're going to develop those cold prospects into these warm prospects. These are the folks, they should be in your contact management software, and they're the ones that you should have frequent contact with, because ultimately the goal is to get a meeting with those warm prospects and turn them into hot prospects, the 3rd stage of the prospecting life cycle here. So these hot prospects, they're the ones, they're actively engaging with you and they're ready to move forward with you in the sales process. So those are the 3 stages of prospecting. It's not all cold calling. It's actually is a series of stages that you are navigating your efforts through. So that's what prospecting is broken down. So the next question that I'm going to pose to you is why should you prospect, right? And if you think about it, there's really not an excuse to prospect. Even if you have, I've heard some people say I have too many leads, which in my opinion, that goes against all the natural laws of selling. But let's say that that's the case. You have too many leads. There's no guarantee that that will always be the case. And so if you're consistently prospecting, you can ensure that your pipeline is active regardless of external circumstances like the market. Right, and I would also argue that most people, they don't like to prospect, right? Or they don't, as a lot of you said in that poll, you don't know where to start, or maybe you don't have time. And especially in the world of real estate, commercial real estate specifically, there's a ton of research involved just to figure out who you need to contact. So it's really not surprising that most people don't know where to start, or don't feel motivated to find the time to prospect for the new business, and in that sense might be content with the status quo. And my question for everyone today is, no matter where you're at in your prospecting, but especially to those of you who might feel like you're not doing enough prospecting, this is the question. If you spent the next year making an additional 50 prospecting calls a week, what could that mean for you in terms of net income? And I'm going to share with you a story about what it meant for one individual named Ken Hoff. And in 2013, Ken Hoff used Prospect Now, our service, and he targeted likely sellers of multifamily properties. And he did this consistently, and his focus was to basically, he was working with a private equity firm, and he wanted to find folks who had large portfolios that this equity firm could buy. And so he did that, and he was consistent, and he eventually had a conversation with a guy who owned a $275 million apartment portfolio and was looking to dispose of those assets. And the entire transaction closed in 60 days. And I'm actually going to post something in the webinar here for you. It's a link to a webinar that we did with Ken. And in that webinar, he shared exactly what he did using Prospect Now, as well as what he said, in his phone calls and his messaging. And that's going to be part of the next slide in terms of, messaging and things like that. So let me send the webinar link out to you if you want to save that for later. If you, don't get the link, it's on our YouTube channel as well, which is really easy to find. So just to recap here, why should you prospect? Well, there's no such thing as too many leads. You want to make sure that your pipeline is not affected by external circumstances like the market. And 3, it's going to add additional income to your pocket that otherwise, would probably have never shown up. So those are the 3 reasons why you should prospect. So in the next thing we're going to talk about is the rules for effective prospecting, right? And so there's 3 rules that I came up with just based on my experience and also doing some research. And the first rule I found that is probably the most important is to focus, right? Go extremely narrow and build a profile of the the ideal customer for you. Whether that's the first time buyer, the institutional investor, maybe it's the guy who owns 10 properties and he'll never sell them because they've been in the family forever. Maybe that's your niche, right? Whoever that person is, whoever that customer is, focus on them, find them, and contact them. Again, they're qualified, but they need to know that you exist. The second thing you need to think about is WIFT. What's in it for them, right? In terms of prospecting, it's you who are approaching them. It's not the other way around, right? And so you need to be able to demonstrate your knowledge of what's happening in their world in a method that, in a way that makes you sound like their colleague and not just another cold call or a face on a postcard. And I think this is something that we all know, but is easily forgotten, right? The goal of business, of sales, of real estate, no matter what industry you're in, your odds are you're not doing it for your health. You're doing it to make a living, to make an income, and to make a good income at that. So it's very easy to fall into the mindset of what's in it for me, and I would challenge each of you to really focus on what's in it for the person on the other end of the phone. How can they benefit from your expertise rather than how can you benefit from their listing or the opportunity to lend to them or do their roof or something like that. So again, it's super simple to realize. It's not as easy to implement, and so that's something that I would encourage everyone to do is really focus on what's in it for the person that you're talking to. And finally, I think this is all of these rules, by the way, are not in any particular order. I think they're equally as important. And so the third rule I'm going to talk about here is to do better pre-call or pre-mail if you do a lot of direct mail planning. Right? There's information everywhere these days, and there's really no excuse to not know anything about who you're calling or who you're sending mail to. And using the internet, social media, LinkedIn, that'll really help you to glean valuable information about the person that you're going to call or send mail to. And so I think if you follow these 3 rules while you're consistent in your prospecting, you have the potential to add, as Ken Hoff did, literally millions of dollars to your net income. And while that story about Ken is exceptional in terms of how large the deal was, it's not unusual in that he got a deal by consistently and effectively prospecting. He got lucky with he hit a home run, but you can definitely score by hitting singles on a consistent basis. I have been at Prospect now for a little over 2 years now, and I started out on the sales team, and now I kind of help manage operations. But when I was doing the sales job, it was incredible. At least once a month, I would get a call from a customer that I'd helped out, just saying, hey, I want to thank you for signing me up because I just got a $20 million listing under contract or a $2 million listing under contract. Whatever the deal size is, I think we can all agree that the more deals we're doing, the better quality of life we can afford to live. So again, follow these rules, do it consistently, and you'll do well. I think that's goes with kind of it's not counterintuitive by any means. And kind of a bonus rule that's not written down here is to leverage the technology that's available to you so that you're able to focus effectively on the ideal prospects and not waste time and resource on the prospects who aren't qualified for what you're wanting to do. And technology such as Prospect now exists to help that occur for you. You've also got CRM software that helps you organize your contact management, as well as automatic dialers and all that, all these different technology tools available to you. So really make yourself a student of your industry and really focus on learning, not only what's available to you, but how to use it, so that your time spent is more productive. So, again, I work for Prospect Now, and I am going to now kind of segue into sharing with you how Prospect Now can help you with this whole idea of effective prospecting. And I'll start it out with a story about how Prospect Now came to be. In 2008 was when we started, like I said, and the founder of the company is a gentleman named Steve Wayne. He was a commercial real estate broker, and his goal in life was to contact as many building owners as possible. He did investment sales of shopping centers here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and so his mission in life, like I said, was to call as many building owners as possible. And in order to do that, he had to go through a ton of different information just to figure out who the owner was of a particular property and how to contact them. The challenge for him was not actually selling the listing. The challenge was getting the listing in the first place, because he had to go through all of these different data sets that were disparate in location, right? They're all over the place. And so it was taking him, so much time to build his database that it almost wasn't worth it. He spent 6 months of his life building this database. Whoops, one too far there. And it just wasn't, it wasn't effective, he felt. And so he kind of became fascinated with the idea of building an automatic method to research that information in a scalable way. So rather than doing it the step-by-step procedure that you see here, which was to research an address, find out it's owned by an LLC, research the LLC, find out who the managing partner or registered agent was, then try and search that person, try and get their phone number, call the phone number, add it to a spreadsheet, load it in the CRM, and then to build a database, repeat that process 1,200 times. That was tedious just saying all of that just now. So I can only imagine how it was to actually go through those actions. And so with Prospect Now, what you're able to do, because we've kind of automated this entire process, is access millions of potential sellers, potential buyers, and borrowers, and be able to quickly see the true owner contact information, phone numbers, emails, financial info, property information. All of this information that you see on the screen here is all in one location for you, rather than spread out all over your different data tools in order to effectively research. There's it's really been designed around the needs of the person who prospects to building owners. So it's very simple to use. You can use a guided interface. You can literally build a search with hundreds of criteria in under 1 minute. You can choose from pre-selected shortcuts that we've included. You can search, by specific address, all the way up to a national footprint, and it's just been, like I said, built around the needs of those who prospect. And in addition, we include some other features like a contact management, so you're able to save your prospects to our contact manager, which is included. You can export records. You can sync it to Salesforce. This is just a very brief synopsis of some of the features. I'm not going to go through them all today, just because I don't think that's why you came on the webinar. But I will show you this before we get into the final stage of our webinar here. I want to show you a sample property record from Prospect Now. So this is a property record, and I've blacked out the portions that you would not be able to find if you didn't have Prospect Now. So if you didn't have Prospect Now, you would be able to see that the owner is this company, that they received the tax bill at this address, and this is the title information you'd be able to see regarding that specific property. And that's it. So if you wanted to find out who do I talk to at Thoits Brothers Inc., or what's their phone number, you'd have to go into Google or LexisNexis or whatever you might have access to, and do a few different searches to actually get that information. Whereas with Prospect Now, you have the phone number, you have the name of the decision maker. You can see that this particular company owns 17 other properties in addition to the one you're looking at right now, and you can also view tenants within each of those properties. So this information has all been provided for you on one page, which is huge. And I'm not even, this is just an individual property record. I'm really not going into some of the other tools that we offer, like a dialer that automatically calls numbers for you, or the contact manager, or the guided search. These are all other features that are not, oh, and I've been talking about direct mail this whole time. You can use Prospect Now to send out mail, automatically, and I think that's, I'm not even covering, a 10% of the features that are available to you. And I'm just saying all this because at the end you're going to have an opportunity to request a personal demonstration so that you can see everything that I'm, blanking out on right now. I know that there's going to be questions at the end, so I'm going to try and address some of them right now about Prospect Now. See, these are some of the most common questions we get. How often do you update, and or how accurate is the data? So we update the data once a month. We get the data, well, I should say we get the base layer of data from the county records, and then we build on that. And it's fairly accurate. You can get a phone number about 60 to 70% of the time for most building owners, and we're updating it every month, so it's pretty current. Second question we get a lot is, how is this different than ... right? Fill in the blank, whatever other service you're thinking of. Prospect Now is the only tool that's designed around prospecting. There's a lot of tools out there for market research and reporting, but there's no other tool out there that is specifically for prospecting. It's for finding those potential customers. And because of that, there's no other database that covers as many properties as we do, or has as many phone numbers for these building owners as we do. That's the biggest difference. Do you cover my area? Odds are yes, most likely we do. We cover about 90% of the United States. Odds are good that we cover your area too. How much does it cost? It starts at $89 a month and it goes up from there. It really depends on your needs, both number of users, both in addition to the geographic footprint you need access to. To get the best feel for that, you'd want to talk to one of our account managers. And so finally, the next steps here are, if you want a demonstration, if you want that, the personal demonstration to see how Prospect Now works for you with one of our account managers, what I'd ask you to do at this time is type demo in the chat window there, and I'll make sure that someone contacts you later today or tomorrow to set that up. You can also go online or call us for a free trial. We're happy to set that up for you. And at this time, if there are any other questions, go ahead and submit them. I saw a couple come in. Again, I see a lot of demo requests coming in as well. Go ahead and submit those too. And the other, what else was I saying? Oh, yeah, questions. I see a couple of them in here that I want to address. Actually, just one so far from Gail. What do you say once you reach that prospect that will make them want to listen to what you have to say? I think that goes back to the second rule of the effective prospecting, that what's in it for them, right? How are you an expert in their world where you can provide that expertise? Are you very knowledgeable about a particular asset class or a particular market area? Basically, how can you differentiate yourself from everybody else who may be calling them? And what you want to do is align your messaging around that theme. And then a lot of it is persistence, right? It's when they tell you, hey, call me back next week, call them back next week, but don't just call back to check in. Call back to add value. Say, hey, you asked me to call back, and I just want to I'm calling back, and I just wanted to let you know I was reading something about the market in your area, and I thought it might be interesting, so I'm going to go ahead and send it over to you. What's your email? Things like that. Second question here from Herb: how does this apply to residential real estate? Why your product versus others? And that's a really good question. There are definitely more products available for the residential world than there are for the commercial world. And I think for the residential agent, you're able to benefit from Prospect Now by finding investor-owned properties. It's probably not going to replace anything for the realtor who is, relying on open houses or you know, park bench advertising, or kind of your standard, kind of what we all think of when we think of the realtor. But for the realtor who wants to go after investor-owned property, you can go in here, for example, and I could find all the single-family homes that are owned, you know, by out-of-state owners, that are owned by LLCs, and I can contact those owners for their business as well. So I think that's going to be the biggest differentiator in the residential real estate world. I see some other questions in here as well, and I think I don't know that they are beneficial for everyone. So what I'm going to do is they are going to get answered, but I'm going to have someone reach out to you with an answer. You know, I see a question, Burke, Giovanni, Anthony. I saw your questions as well. So at this time, I want to make sure that the demo requests are all here, so this is going to be the last call for any demo requests. If you're already a Prospect Now subscriber, you know, we definitely appreciate your business, and we do have user training for how to use the product on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. as well as Thursdays at 11 a.m. and you can register for those webinars on prospectnow.com by clicking the training link. And even if you're not a Prospect Now user and you don't want to do a demo yet, but you want to see a little bit more about how it works, you can sign up for those webinars as well. Just visit prospectnow.com and click on the training link to register. So for those of you who submitted your demo requests, I did receive those. You will be hearing from us in the next day or two. And that's going to conclude today's webinar. I appreciate everyone's time. I did record the webinar, so if you have questions or you'd like to revisit the webinar, you can always do so. It'll be uploaded on our YouTube channel sometime this afternoon or tomorrow morning possibly. So again, thank you everyone for your time and have a wonderful rest of the day.